That morning, my husband's phone screen lit up, revealing a message that shattered my marriage and my life. I'm Abigail Bennett, 34 years old, living in Portland, Oregon. By day, I'm the chief financial officer at a landscape design firm where every project is a work of art demanding precision. By night, I'm Ethan Carter's wife, the man I met in college and once believed was the love of my life. We've been together for 12 years, married for 7. There was a time I thought our bond was unbreakable, that no storm could tear us apart. But the end doesn't always come with a loud fight or a devastating betrayal. It can start with a single flash on a phone screen. It was a typical morning. I woke up before Ethan, brushing my teeth in the bathroom when his phone lit up on the counter. A message from an unknown name. Counting down the hours to the weekend. Cottage, fireside, red dress. I froze. Toothbrush in hand, foam dripping down my chin. The cold marble floor burned my bare feet. Behind the frosted shower door, I heard water cascading over my husband's back as he prepared for another workday, as if nothing had changed. But for me, the world stopped. I didn't try to unlock the phone. I didn't need to. It wasn't shock. It was confirmation. Months of suspicions, his sudden business trips, the phone he now took into the shower, his distant gaze that slid past me like I was an old painting, clicked into place. I washed my face, dried my hands, and applied makeup as I did every morning. My hands didn't tremble, but inside was an emptiness, as if I'd stepped out of my own life and was watching it from afar. When I walked out of the bathroom, Ethan was in front of the bedroom mirror tying his tie. He flashed his usual smile, oblivious that everything had shifted. "I've got a conference in Tacoma this weekend," he said, adjusting his collar. "Back late Sunday." I nodded. "Take a warm jacket. It gets chilly at night," I replied, my voice flat, emotionless. I didn't ask about the message. I didn't want to disrupt the carefully crafted lie he'd worked so hard to maintain. In my mind, a plan was already forming, and I wouldn't say a word until it was ready. Ethan always slept like a log after his Friday evening runs and a couple of whiskeys. I knew that as well as I knew his phone unlocked with his thumbprint. That night, with the scent of whiskey and body wash still lingering, I gently took his phone and pressed his thumb to the sensor. The screen lit up. A chill ran down my spine, like the winter wind off Lake Wenatchee, where we once dreamed of building a veranda. The message about the red dress was just the tip of the iceberg. I uncovered an entire secret life Ethan had been hiding. Her name was Lauren Mitchell, about 39. A sales manager at a pharmaceutical company in Vancouver, Washington. Not a young dreamer, but a woman with sharp wit and experience. More importantly, she was married. An older message mentioned, "Nathan's in Seattle all week. The cottage is ours." Nathan Brooks, her husband. I found him on LinkedIn, 42, an architect specializing in eco-friendly homes, owning a firm in Olympia. His profile picture showed a tall man with light stubble and a tired but kind smile. I didn't sleep that night. Each message was a knife slicing through old memories. Every conference in Tacoma, every evening I spent alone with work files to the hum of the dishwasher, it was all a lie. The next morning, I sat at my laptop, rewriting a message 20 times before sending. "Hello, Nathan. I'm Abigail Bennett. I believe my husband, Ethan Carter, and your wife, Lauren Mitchell, are having an affair. If you're open, I can share evidence. My number, 503-278-9123. My palms were sweaty as I hit send. 3 hours later, my phone rang. His voice was deep, with a slight tremor. "Is this a joke?" he asked. "I wish it was," I replied, my throat dry. "I have texts, photos, and their plans for the weekend at the Lake Wenatchee cottage." A pause. "What do you want to do?" he asked after a long silence. I gripped the phone. "Want to meet them there with me, before they open the wine or take off their coats?" He exhaled. "Okay, let's meet first. Show me what you have." We agreed to meet Saturday morning at a small coffee shop in Mount Vernon, halfway between Portland and Wenatchee. I arrived early, taking a corner booth with a view of the parking lot. I recognized Nathan instantly as he walked in, tall, in a navy coat with a heavy stride that carried the weight of winter. He sat down without small talk. I placed my phone on the table, opened the thread between Ethan and Lauren, and handed it to him. With each swipe, his fingers tightened. He stopped at a photo of Lauren's feet by the cottage fireplace. "That floor, I designed it," he muttered, closing his eyes. "I thought it was just work, just distance. She refused therapy. Now I know why." After an hour, Nathan said, "I still have a spare key to the cottage. Lauren doesn't know." I nodded. "Ethan thinks I'm on a business trip in Spokane. He has no idea I'm nearby." "Then we'll get there first," he said, meeting my gaze. "No yelling, no drama. Just let them see us and the truth." I gripped my coffee mug and nodded. The plan formed from the shards of our pain. No hysterics, just cold truth, like a mirror they'd have to face. We agreed to meet Sunday morning at the cottage. They were set to arrive at 6:20 p.m. By 10:00 a.m., I was pulling up to the wooden cottage nestled among pines by Lake Wenatchee. The air was crisp, no snow in sight. Everything felt clear. The pain, the truth, our plan. Nathan was already there, his dark gray Jeep parked by the steps, dusted with pollen. Inside, he stood with a coffee mug, staring at the still lake. "Sleep?" he asked softly. "Maybe dozed for a couple of hours," I replied, setting my bag on a chair. "But I'm used to sleepless nights. Financiers work in silence, too." We sat quietly for a few minutes. Not awkwardly, just two people sifting through the wreckage of their lives. "I was here 4 years ago," I said. "Ethan and I came after one of his long trips. This is where I lost our first child." Nathan looked at me, his gaze softening. "Lauren wanted kids, too. After 2 failed tests, she stopped talking about it. I thought it was grief. Turns out she had other distractions." We didn't cry, just the hum of the heater and the rustle of wind outside. "Are we going too far?" I asked, knowing the answer. "No," Nathan said. "If this was revenge, maybe, but this is about making them face reality." We prepared the cottage, not as a trap, but as a stage for truth. I wiped down the long wooden table where Ethan and Lauren likely planned their work weekends. Nathan brought a bottle of Cabernet, Lauren's favorite, from his car. I set out 4 crystal glasses, the kind Ethan always packed for his refined ritual. We positioned 2 chairs facing away from the door, forcing them to meet our eyes. The lights were set to a warm glow, bright enough to catch every emotion. "How do you think they'll react?" I asked, scanning the room like we'd staged a play. Nathan shook his head. "Lauren will cry. Ethan, maybe anger, maybe begging. But he's not ready for both of us knowing everything." The day dragged on. We talked about ourselves, not just as the betrayed, but as people stripped bare by heartbreak. I shared how Ethan skipped family dinners, citing urgent work, and how I found receipts from a coffee shop in a neighborhood he had no reason to visit. Nathan told me how he caught Lauren smiling at her phone, only to snap it shut when he entered. "I knew something was off," he said, "but I chose to trust her until you messaged." The sky turned gray. The clock read 4:23 p.m. "Less than 2 hours," I said, adjusting a glass. "Scared?" Nathan asked. "Not of the truth, only of forgiving the unforgivable." He nodded. "I'll remember that." At 5:55 p.m., the air in the cottage was taut, like a wire about to snap. Nathan and I sat in the living room, facing the entrance. The bottle of wine and 2 glasses sat on the table. A folder of evidence, texts, screenshots, credit card statements, and an audio of Ethan's assistant confirming no Tacoma conference lay on a chair. We heard gravel crunch. Nathan glanced at me. I nodded. A black SUV pulled up. Ethan stepped out first, in a leather jacket, carrying a suitcase and a gift bag. Lauren followed with a basket of wine and chocolate. They were laughing, as if arriving for a romantic getaway. The door opened. Lauren entered first, her smile freezing. Ethan bumped into her, looked up, and met my eyes. The gift bag fell. A bottle of whiskey shattering, filling the room with a sharp alcoholic scent. Lauren's basket dropped, wine and chocolate spilling across the floor. "Welcome to your romantic weekend," I said, my voice light as a breeze. "We've prepared wine, chairs, and the truth." Ethan froze, lips pressed tight. Lauren stepped back, her eyes darting to Nathan. "Abby, this isn't what you think," Ethan stammered, his voice shaking. "Not what I think." I tilted my head. "What about the texts about the cottage, the fireplace, the red dress, the wine receipts, the trips to her neighborhood?" Nathan stood, his voice cold as steel. "And you, Lauren. You said you were at a conference with a colleague. You texted me, 'Good night, I miss you,' then turned off your phone. Did I imagine that?" Lauren covered her face, tears streaming. "Nathan, please don't!" she sobbed. "Don't what?" he snapped, his voice trembling with rage. "Don't stand here and watch my wife cheat in the house I built with my own hands." I took the folder from the chair and placed it on the table. "I didn't come empty-handed," I said, my voice steady. "I spent the last 48 hours gathering everything. Call logs, messages, photos from the company party you, Ethan, said was just with the guys." Lauren paled. Ethan grabbed the folder, flipped through a few pages, and threw it down. "You spied on me!" he shouted, eyes bloodshot. "I verified the truth," I said, locking eyes with him. "I suspected for too long, and you were so careful, I had to be more so." Lauren collapsed onto a chair, hair disheveled, tears flowing. Nathan turned to the window, as if he needed air. "Lauren, how long?" he asked, not looking at her. 8 months, she whispered. My chest tightened. Ethan stepped toward me, his voice softer. "Abby, I messed up, but I still love you." I stepped back. "If your love brings another woman to the cottage where I lost our child, keep it." The room fell silent. I looked at Ethan. "Leave now, or stay and hear this through. But if you think there's a chance for forgiveness, you don't know me at all." Nathan looked at Lauren, then at me. "I need air," he said. "Me too," I nodded. We stepped onto the porch, leaving them in the ruins of their lies. Lake Wenatchee was calm, but a storm was rising in me. We returned after half an hour. Ethan and Lauren sat in silence, avoiding each other's gaze. I pulled a chair across from Ethan. Nathan sat beside me, staring at Lauren. The silence was suffocating until I placed a second folder on the table. "Ethan," I began, "did you tell Lauren why we've kept separate finances for 7 years?" He stiffened. "Abby, I'll tell her," I cut in. "Lauren, Ethan lost $50,000 on crypto trades in 2014. His family bailed him out to save his career. I insisted on separate accounts because I saw how much he could hide." Lauren stared at Ethan, stunned. "You never told me!" she exclaimed. "Because it's irrelevant," he snapped. "Is it?" I tilted my head. "You blamed me for being too busy, too cold, but you didn't tell your mistress I've been paying for this cottage while you lied and partied with your buddies in Vancouver." Ethan lowered his head. Nathan turned to Lauren. "And you, Lauren? You said the bank delayed our home repair loan, but you sent $12,000 to a clinic in Spokane. For your mom, right?" Lauren paled. "I didn't want you to worry," she whispered. "You didn't want to tell the truth," Nathan said coldly. "You lived 2 lives, one with me, one with him. Both built on lies." I nodded. "The only thing you two share is dishonesty. Not with us, not even with each other. Just polished versions of yourselves." Lauren sobbed. "I didn't mean for it to go this far." "But you let it," I said. "What hurts more, being betrayed or knowing you didn't have the courage to admit you were wrong?" Ethan looked at me, eyes red. "Abby, I'm so sorry," he said quietly. "Sorry doesn't change the truth," I replied. "And love, if it ever existed, can't save a rotten marriage." Nathan stood, exhausted. "Lauren, what hurts most is you never considered telling me the truth. You thought I wasn't worth it." Lauren said nothing, tears streaking her face. I stood. "I didn't come for love. I came for truth. And here it is." "Ethan, you love admiration, not me. Lauren, you love escaping a life you didn't have the courage to face, not Nathan." I looked at them. Love is nothing without trust, respect, and honesty. Without those, it's just a beautiful illusion. Suddenly, Lauren stood, clutching the chair, her eyes red with shame and fear. "I have to say something," she said, her voice shaking. Nathan's brow furrowed. She swallowed, glancing at Ethan, then at me. I'm pregnant." The room froze. The ticking wall clock sliced through the silence. Ethan jumped up. "What did you say?" Lauren nodded, lips trembling. "I found out last week. I was going to tell Ethan here, at the cottage." Nathan stood rigid, his voice a whisper. "Is it mine?" Lauren looked at him, tears glistening. "Yes, I'm sure. Ethan and I always used protection." My mind went blank, then flooded with emotion. No one expected a confrontation to be upended by an unborn life. Ethan stared at Lauren, his face a mix of shock and humiliation. "You're pregnant with his kid?" he shouted. "Don't call it that," Lauren snapped, regaining composure. "I was wrong to cheat, but I never lied to you about my feelings." I took a deep breath and stood. "Enough for today," I said, eyes on Ethan. "Everything's on the table." I pulled a folder from my bag and set it before him. Divorce papers and financials. I've moved our joint assets to a separate account. It's all verified by my lawyer. I have nothing to hide. Ethan was silent. Sign or don't, but my decision is final. Lauren sat, holding her stomach. Nathan turned to her, voice controlled. I need time to process this. But if you're keeping the baby, I'll take responsibility. It's not the child's fault. Lauren nodded, choking back tears. Thank you for saying that. I looked at Ethan. If you have something to say it now. He raised his head, eyes weary. Abby, this isn't worth ending everything. We had so much good. You're right, I nodded. We did, but you traded it for a cheap thrill with someone who lies to her own husband. I'm protecting my life. Nathan stood. Abby, if you need anything, call. We've got more to talk about. I nodded, grateful for his calm. Lauren stepped toward me. I know I don't deserve to apologize, but I didn't think it would go this far. I met her gaze. The worst people aren't the obviously bad ones, they're the ones who convince themselves they're good while lying. She froze, then turned away. I signed the papers, feeling lighter with each stroke. I was free from a rotten marriage. I looked at Ethan, the man who'd been my youth, my dream of a family. Good luck, I said. You'll need it. Nathan and I left the cottage at 9:00 p.m. Ethan sat motionless. Lauren curled in a corner, clutching her stomach, as if it was all she had left. No one saw us out. We walked in silence, the crunch of leaves marking a closed chapter. Nathan opened my car door, got in the driver's seat, and asked, Want to grab a bite? There's a spot in downtown Wenatchee, open late. Nothing fancy, but their mushroom soup's good. I laughed. Hoarse, unexpected, real. Yeah, I'm starving. We sat in a small diner under warm lamplight. We didn't dissect the day, but talked about simple things. Nathan's dream of becoming a chef before choosing architecture, my abandoned plan for a bookshop cafe in Monterey that Ethan called foolish. After dinner, we shook hands and nodded, understanding each other without words. We didn't become lovers, but I'd gained a friend who walked with me through the darkest night. 6 months later, I stood on my seaside home's terrace in Astoria, holding a mug of herbal tea, listening to waves crash. The divorce finalized in 2 months. My paperwork was impeccable. Ethan didn't fight, perhaps knowing prolonging it would cost him more. I got most of the assets, including a buyout for the cottage, which I sold back to him. I didn't need ghosts. Ethan lost his shot at a promotion. His boss, a strict but fair woman, heard about the scandal through a colleague. No one said anything outright, but he was sidelined from big projects. Lauren gave birth last week. Nathan texted, Girl, healthy. Emotions are everywhere, but we're managing. He sent a photo, a tiny hand gripping Lauren's finger, Nathan looking at the camera with a softness I hadn't seen. I don't know if they reconciled, but they're learning honesty, even if late. I live alone in a house by the sea, close enough to Portland, but far enough to hear only the wind. I left my CFO job for freelance financial consulting. No more late-night emails or endless meetings. Yoga on the beach and volunteering at a women's shelter are my new rituals. Nathan and I stay in touch, not often, but steadily. Sometimes it's Happy Thanksgiving. Sometimes saw a Provençal-style cottage in California, thought of you. Sometimes a 15-minute call. You okay? That's enough. We shared one of the darkest nights, and our friendship needs no labels. One evening, I sat on the terrace with a book and an old playlist Ethan called Too Sentimental. Florence and the Machine played Shake It Out. I smiled, the breeze in my hair. The past hadn't vanished, but I'd moved far enough to look back without pain. One April morning, I woke at dawn, not for an alarm, but to greet the day. Sunlight poured through my Astoria home's windows, bathing it in gold. I sat in an armchair with a blanket, watching the sea. I wasn't the abandoned woman anymore. Ethan was part of my life, not its destination. He taught me a costly lesson. Trust isn't for those who can't protect it. Love without honesty is empty, and sacrifice makes you forget your worth. I tried to be a good wife. Successful, gentle, forgiving. But what did I get? A husband planning his escape while I paid for his lies. The pain didn't drown me. It brought me to shore. I'm no longer the woman crying in her car over a changed password, blaming herself for his distance, clutching a mug to hear his empty words. I'm steady, clear, strong enough to walk away from anyone who doesn't deserve my life. I last saw Ethan at a Portland charity event. He stood across the room with a glass, looking older, thinner. "Abby," he called softly. I turned. "You look good," he said, hesitating. "I am good." I nodded. I just wanted to say, "I'm sorry." I smiled. "I know, but that's the past, and I live in the present." He stepped back, small for the first time. Now, I open my windows each morning to let in light. Mint and basil pots line my terrace. I've picked up old dreams, journaling, essays, a letter to my 25-year-old self. I counsel divorced women, not as a cold expert, but as someone who's lived their fear and loss. They trust me because I speak with a heart that's been broken and rebuilt. Nathan's busy with his daughter, but texts sometimes. "Eliza smiled today. Looks just like Lauren." I'm happy for them, not because they erase the pain, but because they're facing it. I'm not seeking love or rushing to fill a void. I'm learning to love myself, something I forgot for years. One weekend, driving along the coast with no light playing, I smiled, the wind in my hair. Loss isn't the end. It's the end of what no longer serves you, so something better can begin. If asked, "Abby, do you regret anything?" I'd say, "No." Some people don't stay. They teach us to leave at the right time. My story isn't tragedy, it's rebirth. I've learned to stand, heal, and love myself. I don't resent the past or seek revenge. I choose peace and a life that's mine. Every morning in my home reminds me, sometimes loss clears the way for better. I'm grateful I had the courage to walk away when it mattered. What do you think of Abby's journey? Would you forgive or walk away like she did? Share in the comments and subscribe for more stories about love, family, and truth.